What up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Ginn Podcast. This is your host, Gilbert Sanchez. If you're new here, man, welcome to a new season. This is season 4. You're the first episode of season 4. So shout out to you for pulling
Hey,
up.
let's go.
Episode 92, 93, one of those. 92, I think it's 92. So, yeah, new season, new guest. I wanted to start off in a different studio, but there was some complications where, yeah, it was scheduling conflicts between me and the owner. And, yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, you came back into here, so, I mean, it's always good, but fun fact, as of yesterday at 1 p.m., I didn't even know I was gonna be able to do this podcast with you, so
That's crazy.
yeah, so I hit you up, and I was just like, "Fuck, I hope something aligns between our schedules and
Yeah.
something was up." I know I had messaged you, and we were supposed to do a little bit earlier, but and shout out to you for actually going through
Yeah,
that because
yeah, I got you.
I personally hate when I set things up for myself, for other people, and then rescheduling and then communicate. It's a
Yeah.
mess. It messes with my head. So, um, but man, XB, how
What's
you
up?
feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I
Yeah,
really do appreciate you inviting me out. This
yeah,
is dope,
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Of course, of
honored.
course. Obviously, if you're tapped into the music, you should already know what it is. But this is her first time here, and when I first saw you, I saw you on Mozzie's World,
Oh,
and
yeah.
me and Mozzie and Squirrels, we haven't officially met in person yet, but it's just kind of like internet people. I mean, we
Yeah.
both have platforms, so I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, we reached out. We messaged, we
Mhm.
talked, so it's always love there.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah, I first saw you there, and I was just, I mean, obviously you do your research after that, so I want to say, when did you? I want to say 2021, 2022. When would you first? When the first episode? Because you had two, right?
Yeah, I did too. I think the first one was 2022, and then I
Okay.
did one this year, like
Okay.
early in the year. Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, man, those are my guys. I love Skrills and Mozzie, man. They're like brothers to
I
me.
didn't even realize how far back they were doing, especially Mozzie. Like he had a podcast before he
Mhm.
was doing that one. I didn't even realize how deep it was until
Yeah.
I was watching one of the episodes, and I mean, he damn near did like almost 200 episodes on the platform previous, which is insane. I mean, I'm barely about to hit 100, and I mean, it feels like a fucking long ass time. So,
Be
yeah,
like
man,
it.
he's put in work. The the production side of that shit is I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous. I'm a little
Yeah, Skrills
jealous.
be killing shit,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous. Just the graphics, the production, the everything they have set up, man. I try my best to have everything set up the way it is right now
Mhm.
and kind of do the video side because the audio side I can't seem to fucking get down, but I try my best. So shout out to them, man. Um, I know we're talking off air, originally from Georgetown, right?
Yes, sir.
How long before you moved out of there?
Oh, man, I lived there until I was 20, I wanna say 22, going on to 23. I moved to Dallas, and, I lived in Georgetown my entire life,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was and I moved to Deep Ellum. So Deep Ellum is like I like to compare it to 6th Street of Austin. So I was living
Goddamn.
in, like, the
Yeah,
6th
yeah.
Street of Dallas. That shit was crazy,
Yeah.
but it was an experience, and at the time, I had just signed to my manager, Smooth, so, things were just moving real quick for my career, so it just
Yeah.
felt right to make that move, but now I'm living back in Georgetown, so
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
how old do I look?
Well, I know your age because 'cause I've seen
Oh,
it already, so
okay. Well,
Nah,
yes,
I'm just
I'm
playing.
yeah, I'm 26.
I'm just messing with you. But man, you bring up a good point. So this was actually one of the questions I wanted to ask your manager. How did that come about? How did that? I mean, was it just messages back and forth?
Yeah,
He reached
well,
out.
it's kind of funny because the person I was originally managed to, his name was Jay, and me and him, we worked together for maybe like 5 years. He found me when I was really young, and me and him kind of like built this like good relationship. But he didn't know anything about the music industry. We were both
Yeah,
kind of just diving in as amateurs,
yeah,
and he trusted me, I trusted him. But he kind of like really put me on game on who was who in the Dallas scene. So when I met him and, once we're like towards the end of mine and his like, I guess, management contract,
yeah,
he started kind of like guiding me to like, yo, you really need to, start messing with Smooth Vega. He's like, this dude, like, he's a big time a promoter in Fort Worth. He's like, he puts on big shows. Like, we need to get you like on his radar.
yeah,
And he knew what he was doing. He was really kind of like letting me know who was who, just so he wanted me like when he sent me off, I was in good hands. Like that's all he
yeah,
really cared about. Shout out to him because he really did put me on a lot, and like I didn't know anybody in Dallas, so he kind of just gave me the ins and outs of everything. And finally, I did a show for Smooth. I want to say in 2017 or 2018, one of those years, and or 2019 actually. And it was I opened up for Kurt Cobain's, and I was like the first opener. You know, at the time I was like 50, 60 pounds heavier. Like I still didn't know who I was as an
Yeah.
artist. So I didn't really stand out to him. Like I don't even think he really remembers meeting me that day. He
Yeah,
says he
yeah.
does, but I was like, I don't know if he really did. He says he just remembers me like being bigger. I was like, all right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but then, fast forward maybe like a year or two, I sent him this long message on Facebook. And I was just like, yo, like I got this EPK, like, I'm ready to work. I'll do anything. Like, I understand, like, to get on these shows, like there's requirements you have to meet, whatever, whatever. And he never responded. A year later, he responds to that message and he just says, got it.
Damn.
And that's all he said. I was like,
Yeah,
damn. I was like, fuck, yeah, this dude doesn't, yeah, like that's out the door. Like, there's
yeah.
no way he's, gonna fuck with me. But it was funny because maybe like a couple months after that, I noticed he started like subtly commenting on videos on my Instagram. I would always post like these little snippets of verses or just like little freestyles I do. And he started just like commenting little fire emojis. He hadn't followed me yet, but I was like, oh, he's peeping.
Yeah, he's
So it
watching. Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
was like, oh, like I was excited. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna definitely like just keep being consistent and just keep posting and just see what happens. Eventually he followed me. And I remember telling my girls like, "Oh, Smooth Vega followed me." I was like I gotta keep like,
Yeah.
doing stuff. And, I just kept, I was just consistent, always posting stuff. And eventually it was during the pandemic. He started this like YouTube series where like he was inviting artists to do like covers of songs. And this was the first like episode he was doing. So he
Mhm.
invited me. I didn't even hesitate. I was like, I'm pulling up. I don't care what I gotta do. I pulled up. And that was the first time me and him sat down in person and really talked. He's like, yo, I'm kind of interested in like managing artists. He's like, I've always kind of like thought about doing it, but I never actually like, went full force with it.
Yeah.
He's like, but you're one of those artists I'm thinking about managing. Bro, I just remember hearing those words like deep down. I was like screaming in the inside. I was like, oh
You
shit.
trying to play it cool,
I
right?
was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like maybe we could talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think like him showing interest into me really like confirmed like, yo, like I'm pretty good at this. Like for someone like Smooth to show interest in managing me and like he's someone everyone wants him to be their
Yep.
manager. So at the time I didn't know just how important he was. I was familiar with his name, but I had no idea like this dude's the man. Like this dude is like
Yeah, it's connections a
yeah,
little bit. Yeah, yeah, I got
and I
you.
started learning that as the more I was being around him. So obviously he showed interest and we kind of just like started building this relationship where, he would like come down like this weekend. We'll come, we'll go eat, we'll talk more.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of getting to know each other. And one thing about Smooth is he does not jump into any business without really like getting to know the other person. Like he has to really make sure he even likes you as a person before he's like, yeah, I'm gonna give you some of my time, some of my resources. Like that's just not how he functions.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're a stranger, like that's probably all you're gonna be is a stranger to him unless you make the effort to get to know him. And we went out to eat and it was just me, my girl, and him. And this was the first time like I was like, man, like we're really taking that next step now. Like he was just like kind of confirming, like, I really like everything you're doing. I like everything about, your image. Like we can, he's like, I really feel like I can enhance what you already got going on. And to me, that's like what every artist wants to hear, especially because I had already been doing it for years.
Yep.
So I was like, man, this is like the perfect opportunity for me to really like take it where I always wanted to take it. And I was like, I know he can be the one to take me there. So, we just kept, meeting up and eventually like I want to say maybe like 2, 3 months into like us just vibing, kind of getting to know each other. Like he finally is like, I'm gonna send you the contract. We're gonna make this happen. He's like, we're not gonna tell nobody yet. So we make it happen. I sign the contract. And the first thing we do is like, he's like, I'm gonna make you do a song with Cap G. First song I did working with Smooth was a song called No Saint. Cap G was on that.
Yep.
And we shot a music video, we put it out, and then we announced that I signed to Smooth. So it was like this whole rollout. And ever since then, man, we've been
How
we've
long
just
ago
been going hard.
yeah, how long ago was that? When did you
2 years. It's on
2
yeah,
years?
like 2.5 maybe. Yeah.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha.
that's how long we've been doing.
How's y'all's relationship now? I'm assuming
Yeah,
it's a lot better.
honestly, like I
Yeah, yeah.
always joke around and tell my girls, I feel like I'm Smooth's best friend, low key.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, not like he's genuinely like someone I consider family. Like, I didn't really think we'd ever get to that point. Not because I think he's a certain way, just
Yep.
because he's so about his like business. I never really thought he'd let me in like that. But now, like, he's someone I really confide in. I feel like he confides in me. Like he'd be venting to me, I'd be venting to him.
Yeah.
Like, he's like genuinely like a friend to me. Like, he's family. So it's cool because this is someone I plan to like go all the way with. Like he's like changed my life in the short amount of time I know
Yeah.
him. So I'm just excited to see what the future holds for us,
Yeah,
really.
sounds like it. I wanted to mention though the previous manager.
Mhm.
Um, that's crazy. Like he
Yeah.
actually just handed you off, and there was like
Yeah,
no
man.
bad blood,
Not at
no
all.
hard feelings. Just like, hey, I want you
Yeah.
to succeed and do your own thing, and
100%.
I believe in you. And like, here's the next
Mhm.
step. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, you don't see that a lot. You
No.
really don't. Either there's something happens, there's a fight, there's argument, something along the lines, and
Yeah.
it's just like it's never the same. So, do you still keep in touch every
Nah,
so often?
honestly, it's kinda like, I think life just kinda happens. I think we kinda just drifted, like, there's no bad blood between us,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
like, honestly, I never really get the chance to talk about this as much as I'd like to, not because I choose not to, it just
Mhm.
never really comes up, but I really owe him a lot because he taught me a lot of things, like, I was in Dallas, like, not knowing nobody, I didn't know who to go to for shows, and he did everything his ability to
Yeah.
make sure, like, I was put in the right places, and, he was learning, he was
Mhm.
still so I never really, like, expected much out of it, but for the little resources he had, he did everything he could, and, and I remember whenever I was, going back and forth with Smooth, I was kinda nervous. I was like, "I don't know how to tell him, like, I might have a whole new
Yeah,
manager."
yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
and obviously Smooth's like, "I wanna make sure what you guys got going on is good." He's like, "I don't want no bad blood between nobody." He's like, "Just figure that out and come back to me when everything's good." So I literally drove I remember texting him, I was like, "Yo, let's go get some food." And he's like, "I wanna talk to you about something?" And I remember I drove out to Dallas literally just to go eat with him. And I was like, I want to tell you this in person. I was like, look, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, Smooth's actually like, wanting to pursue this management with
Mhm.
me. And I was like, I just want to make sure that's cool with you. He's like, that's exactly what I wanted for you. He's like, I'm proud of you. He's like,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
what I
yeah.
wanted. He's like, hell yeah. Like, and it's just crazy because I remember the whole drive over there. My cousin went with me, and I was like, "Bro, I'm nervous." I was like, "I really don't
Yeah.
want to like burn a bridge just because I want to like take that next
Yeah,
step." But man, he was so cool about it, and like, there's no bad blood. I wish him well and everything he does. And he also just kind of like, he had passions of his own, and I felt like him being a manager wasn't necessarily what he really wanted in life, and I
yeah,
could tell. And I think he just genuinely cared about me and believed in me and just wanted to see me succeed. But
yeah.
I think it gets to a point where I was like, I also want that for you, even if that's not for with
Yeah,
me,
yeah. Nah, yeah,
So
that's
that's kind
good.
of what happened.
That's good. Smooth
Yeah,
transition for sure.
100%.
You mentioned it earlier, and I popped up on your YouTube the other day, and I was just like, let me look at the oldest video, and yeah, definitely heavier. I'll give you that.
No,
But
100%, bro.
yeah, I wanted to talk about because I mean we followed each other. I mean this must have been 2 weeks ago. We followed
Yeah.
each other when I reached out. And you're in the gym.
Yeah.
You post 6 o'clock in the morning, and the only reason I'm saying that is because I see it and I'm up too, and I'm doing exactly the same
Mhm.
thing. I don't know, for some reason, I'm really, like, just personal about my shit that I have, so I don't really like to post shit, but anyways, yeah, what was the mindset? What was the drive to, I mean, obviously getting healthier, living the different lifestyle? I mean,
Yeah.
you were at a point where it was obviously you were bigger.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest I've ever weighed was 250 pounds, and obviously I knew I was always overweight my entire life. I remember the first time I had like a scare was when I was like 13 or 14. My mom, took me to the pediatrics and they told me I was like, if you don't start eating better, you're at the verge of diabetes. I'm like, man, I'm 13, 14. Like
Yeah,
hearing that, I was like, ah, shit. Like I don't want to fucking have to like deal with this when I
yeah,
don't like just because of the food I'm eating. I remember like literally that same day, my mom takes me to HEB. We go and buy a bunch of healthy meals. And I was just like sad. I remember I wanted to cry because I was like, this shit tastes terrible.
yeah,
Like, and it sucked because I was like, why do I gotta eat this shit
yeah,
and all these other kids don't? But, and it was something I battled with. Like, I'm 26 years old and I'm barely like I can genuinely say I'm healthy now. That was when I was 13. That was like 13 years ago. So to think like it took me that long to finally get the hang of it, like shows you how
yeah,
hard it really is. Because I played sports growing up, but I was still like the chubbiest one on the team or the slowest one on the team. I just love being a part of something. So I think that's why I always like love sports. I like just knowing I was a part of a team.
yeah,
But once I was in high school, I remember like the hardest part for me was really all my friends would always talk about like, oh, like they had boyfriends and like, they were always like had a different boyfriend like every month type shit. You're in high school, that's normal, whatever. But I was always the only one like kind of like, man, like no one ever really shows me any
yeah,
interest.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it fucked with me,
yeah,
because I was like, why, like, what is it about my appearance that's not appealing to anybody to like approach me? And when you're young, it fucks with you, you start kind of, you get real like stuck in that, like, oh, like no one wants me or type shit. And then I think it was when I was a freshman, I finally kinda, like I think I weighted, like, 180, and that's still, like, heavy, but I was smaller than what I was used to, and then I gained it all back.
Damn.
I my sophomore year, I went through a really tough time. I hit like depression. I was diagnosed with a lot of different things, and I was put on a medication. A lot of people don't know this, but I took Seroquel for like shit. I want to say maybe
School me on what you just said. I have no
you
idea.
know what Seroquel. It's an anti. Oh man, it's like a 3 in 1.
Oh
So
shit.
it's like an antidepressant, an antipsychotic. That sounds intense, I know, but
Yeah.
antipsychotic. And
So
then it's to help you sleep. So it was an intense medication, but I
yeah,
took
yeah,
it
yeah.
for many reasons.
I got you.
But it had a risk of gaining weight. It
Mm.
was a high calorie medication. So taking that, I think I took it for like 3 4 years. I don't even remember how long. And I was having to go to the doctor every month so them to check my blood because there was a high risk of blood pressure with that medication. So I was gaining so much weight just because I was taking this medication, and it wasn't until I was 21 I come out, and when I came out, it was kind of almost like, oh, it all makes sense now,
Were you still overweight at that point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
still
Okay. I
overweight. I
got
was
you.
probably weighing like I want to say maybe like 200.
Okay. I
You
got you.
know, it was the first time I come out, and I'm starting to kind of feel a little bit better about myself, and I'm starting to kinda learn, like, "Oh, like, maybe this is why I feel so miserable all the time." And I started going to the gym right when I was 21. I probably went for maybe, like, 6 months. I get in my first female relationship, I stopped going.
Yeah, I feel
And then
that.
I gained all that weight back. Me and that girl ended up breaking up. It was an experience of a relationship is the best way of putting
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And,
for real.
after that ended, I kinda, like, went through this phase again where I was like, "Alright, I wanna get back in the gym." So I get back in the gym, this is, like, 22, and I, like, kinda stay stagnant, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just going, doing typical workouts, and then finally, I wanna say I get with the girl I'm currently with now. We've been together 4 years, so I got together with her when I was 23, 22, one or the other. And she's all about fitness. So when I met her, it was kinda like, oh, like, she was teaching me a lot, and I
Yeah.
started working out more. I didn't really start, like, losing weight, like, fully until I was, I wanna say 2.5 years ago, kinda, like, right when I met Smooth.
Hmm.
So, like, now I weigh, like, 170. So this is literally, I've never weighted this much since probably when I was, like,
Yes.
shit, maybe
Yeah.
6th grade.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
so now, like, I think it was just it took so long to finally get to this point, but I think I always think back to how I felt when I was younger. Like, man, like
Yeah.
that feeling of no one wanting you or not feeling like, what's the word? Like just that feeling of not feeling wanted.
Yeah.
And
Just
it, and
being
it, yeah.
accepted from every. Yeah, I got you.
So now that's what motivates me. Like anytime I
Yeah.
wake up and I'm like, man, I don't feel like going to the gym, I go and look at pictures of myself when I was bigger. I'm like, nah, I owe that version of myself to
Yeah.
get my ass up and go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I do now.
Yeah, I feel that because when I remember this to the T because I played basketball, but it was on the south side of San Antonio, and pretty
Mm.
much I was like the tallest one on the team. Everybody else is fucking short, and it's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
um, I mean, I think my sophomore and junior year, I was the same height I am now, and I weighed, I want to say 160, 170,
Mm.
which is in my eyes, it was very small, very scrawny.
Mhm.
I mean, it took me a while to actually start lifting, and then during high school, I didn't. I mean, we were weightlifting,
Mhm.
but it was mostly like hit workouts where it
Oh,
was
yeah,
just
it
like
was
just conditioning,
yeah.
just because you're running so much during basketball. So I wasn't really putting on weight up until shit. I want to say like 2015, 2016, where I actually started focusing on lifting weight. And man, shout out to my boy Caesar because man, it goes all the way back. I don't know, man, I'm forgetting the freaking supplement company that he used to promote, but it was like a fucking scam. Anyways,
Ah.
Herbalife. There we go.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking
So
about.
started doing that, and then from there, I mean, it's just been a journey, and yeah, I'm sitting right now at 220, 230, and I mean, I feel good. Like
Yeah.
I'm chilling. Like this is what I mean, obviously for some odd reason I want to get bigger. Like it's just a thing in my
Yeah,
head.
you
Like
just want yeah, it's
I'm
never
I'm the
ending.
smallest person in the gym every time I walk in the gym, and that's just the way it is. Even though I mean I'm not, but it was to a point where like it came into like looking at just what you said, looking at the previous version of yourself and
Mhm.
just realizing like, "Fuck, you've come so far, you're gonna fucking give up
Yeah,
now? Like,
facts.
what the fuck what the fuck is going on?" Um, And yeah, like I said, man, shout out to my friends because they're with me through that journey. They always encouraging me. So I wanted to touch on that too because you talk about I guess the mental side of it. Because for me, going to the gym, I mean, it's a stress reliever. It's
Yeah,
therapeutic. I mean, I
100%.
I let all my like when it's gym time, like I just everything. I'm not even on social media. I'm just flipping through music. So
Thanks.
talk about the mental side of it. Like, what does the what is being healthy? What is the lifestyle? What does going to the gym do for you?
I mean, I think it's like that's why I like to start my day with it because it's almost like doing the one thing that's really gonna kind of it's like a stress reliever,
Yep.
right? So like I think it's important for me to do that first thing first because it's, like, weird because if I don't go to the gym and I just, like, start my day, it's like I feel guilty the whole day. I'm like, "What?"
That's
I
crazy.
like
Yeah.
and then, like, it fucks with me because 'cause I'm like, "Nah, I didn't do something for myself today yet."
Yeah.
Like and going to the gym, like, people really do say, like, it releases, like, what is that shit called? The endorphins or something like that,
I know what you're
serotonin
talking
some
about,
one of
but yeah,
those
yeah,
things.
I know what you're
It's
talking
like a
about though.
natural high,
Yeah.
and it just makes me feel good, like, cause I
Dopamine.
yeah, there you go. That's just
Dopamine.
like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
one of those things.
I got you.
And, I think it was like, at first I used to hate going. Now it's the opposite. I
Yeah.
hate not going
Yeah, yeah.
because it's just something about the way I feel, especially knowing like back then I couldn't run for shit. When I was a kid in any sport, I was always the last one or finishing my mile like at 17 minutes because I was slow as shit. Now I be running 5 miles like just because I've been wanting to run my
I
first
seen that. I would
yeah.
never do that. I hate cardio for
Nah,
yeah.
I love cardio, and I think it's crazy to me because if you would've told me at 15, like, "Yeah, you're gonna when you're 26, you're gonna be running 5 miles," I'd be like, "Yeah, whatever." Like, there's
Yeah.
no way, but that shit just makes me feel so good because it's something that I never thought I could do, and I'm constantly, like, showing myself what I'm capable of. Like, I do a lot of HIIT workouts,
Yeah.
so I'm very cardio based. Like, I do lift, but I try not to do it too much because my goal isn't to, like, get, like, muscular or
Yeah.
nothing.
I got you.
I just wanna feel good and I wanna build my endurance more than anything. So, I have like this app, the Sweat app that I use, and it levels you up. So, I be doing like a lot of like mountain climbers, burpees, like a lot of like
Yeah.
crazy shit. But it's just something about the way I feel when I leave the gym. I'm like, man, I feel good. Like I'm ready to start my day now.
Yeah.
Like I can go at 100 miles if I need to. Like, and it's just something, I tell people sometimes, they're like, man, I can't believe you like go to the gym every day. But I'm like, I really feel like shit if I don't go. Like,
Yeah.
I think at some point you genuinely get addicted to it,
Yeah.
and I think it's
I
a good
I'm
addiction.
I'm the same way, like, if I don't hit the gym, I'm a bum. Like, I'm
Mhm.
literally a fucking bum. That's literally
Facts.
and I try it's hard for me, like, on off days, like, I at least try to have, like, 1 off day, 2
Yeah.
off days, if anything, but on those days, it's weird, like, I will everything won't go the way it's supposed to.
I feel
It's
that.
so fucking weird, I mean, so that's I relate to that so much, and then it just I see people, like, try to do it to a level where this is where I'm trying to get. This is why I don't post online my workouts and stuff
Mhm.
because I generally I'm in love, like, with it, like, so
Yeah.
I just don't that's my place of peace, so I just don't wanna show it off because I mean, I'm there for only one reason, and it's just to
Yeah.
help me. It's just to keep me sane in the head, so I mean, there's some people that do it, and I'm just like, I don't know if you like that. I don't know if you're doing it
Mm.
for yourself. I don't know
Yeah.
if you're actually I mean, kudos to them for actually trying, but I think it's just them posting on social media, just try to maybe fit
Yeah.
in, to try to maybe feel like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm one of those people where I see a lot of shit. I just don't say anything. I like to
Yeah.
keep to myself. So,
Yeah.
um, I know that we're on a weird ass tangent about fucking the gym.
Nah, you
Yeah,
good.
yeah. But yeah, man, shout out to you because I seen that when you're running 5 miles and you're
Mhm.
posting every mile, you're like, this is mile
Right.
3 or whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck no, never in a million
Nah,
years
I
I can
always get
remember that.
people like, "How do you be starting?" Like, bruh, it's like I have my phone because I have like it's funny because my girl just bought me the little backpacks that have like the
With the
water
water, yeah, with
shits.
the water,
Because
yeah.
it's hot as fuck outside, and like it's funny because at first I told my dad, like my dad loves to run, and I would trip out because that man can run like at least an hour and a half straight, no stopping. And I like now I can run for an hour straight, no stopping.
It's crazy.
And like it trips me out, but it's just like it's all about like pacing, like
Yep.
you start slow and then you realize like, oh, I can last longer. And some people it's all about speed, but I never cared about that. It's like I just want to be able to last long.
Yep.
And like I remember thinking, how, I was like the first time I ever did that, I was like, how am I? gonna I saw someone on TikTok do it, that's what it was. Someone was, like, doing it, I was like, "Oh, how do they do this? Like, stop every mile? Or like, how do they, like,
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
going?"
yeah,
So I just kept my every time, like, mid-mile, I take out my phone, I keep it in my hand, so I run the other mile. Alright, bet. Now I record
yeah.
myself. But man, like, I can only do it once a week because like, I tried doing it, like, 2 days back to back. Fuck no.
It's taxing on your body?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I
like, my
bet.
feet be hurting because like, by the end of my run, I have to walk for at least 30 minutes because I remember one time I did it,
Yeah,
and I just got in my car because I go to a park, like, I drive to one, and I was like, "Man, my legs were like, hurting." I was having, like, weird, like, growing pains all day,
yeah.
like and it was just bad. I was like, "I'm never doing that again."
We're getting old, we're getting we're getting old.
That's facts, yeah, I was starting to feel it.
You recently released an album 2 months ago.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, it'll probably be about 2 months and a half,
Mhm.
3 months. Talk about that. How was the experience making that? What was the process like? When I saw it, um, you had Bone Thugs and Harmony on it, which is fucking
Mhm.
crazy. I mean, to me, growing up, those were one of the people that I listened to. So yeah, talk about that. How was the process with that? What was the experience like? Like it, love it. Was it cool?
I mean, yeah, it was definitely a roller coaster. I think the album is, I was fully transparent with it and, just as vulnerable as I could be, cuz like I always think like what is it that I like about my favorite artist's album? What is it about it that like, kept me hooked? And
Mhm.
a lot of times it's like the realness and like just the fact that I could relate. And not everything is going to be like deep, but I wanted to give a little bit of everything I had to offer, like it was like a full project about everything I experienced within like a year and a half of, from the time I met Smooth till now. And, a lot of it was like everything, every single song on that album was a real experience. Nothing was inspired by like everything
Mhm.
was legitimately an actual experience. And I wanted to kind of provide all my listeners like something they could like hold on to, whether it was the first song, the last song, or the song in the middle, like at
Yeah.
least one song is gonna feel personal. And that was my goal. I wanted someone to like be like, this song is the one because I went through something just as similar, or like this is how I feel. And that's to me is the most rewarding thing as an artist is for people to be like, yo, like you took the words right out of my mouth. And like that's like really what I've always wanted to accomplish with music is I want people to like really feel what I'm saying,
Mhm.
because I want the same effect I have when I listen to like one of my favorite artists is The Weeknd, right? And I think like his ability of like storytelling, like people probably think like this dude doesn't really storytell, but
Yeah.
I was like, he storytells about women.
Yeah, yeah, no. Yeah, he
And like
does.
his earlier albums, like, I like some of my favorite album by him is Kissland because the whole album is basically dedicated to like this one specific female. And the way he went about it, I saw him perform this album live. And I think that's what really kind of like showed me like, man, like this album is like, I don't even like it's almost like a child. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's like your baby. And he kind of had like all of us in that moment
Yeah.
with him. And it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just cool. Like all of it was something I wanted to experience. And I think this album for me was like my first, like, this is me. I've put out albums in the past, but nothing to like this extent and like with the features I had on it. And I think that was another thing that made it even more meaningful to me. Like, for example, the Bone Thugs, I had a cousin who unfortunately he passed away like 3 years ago. And he was like my brother, we were super close, and he's the reason why I even make music and his favorite rap group of all time was a Bone Thugs and Harmony. We used to like joke around like back in the day, like, oh, like imagine you
Jeez.
do a song with
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And like when that happened, I remember just listening to the song by myself over and over again. Man, I cried, but like I was like happy crying. I was like, man, like if
Yeah.
I can only imagine the shit he'd be saying if he heard the song. And it was just a bittersweet moment because I was like, it meant that much more to me knowing like this is something I knew he'd be proud of. And just with the other songs too, like for example, West Side Boogie. He's an artist. I actually have his songs on my playlist. So to even say, "Yo, I got a song with West Side Boogie," like,
It's dope.
and who else did I have on there? D Smoke. It was also crazy because my cousin put me on to D Smoke because he's watched that Rhythm and Flow, or
Mhm.
is that the name of the show? Yeah. And when I first heard of him, I never thought this dude's gonna be on my album one
Yeah. Yeah,
day.
yeah.
So I think like just kind of how everything got pieced together was just very meaningful to me because it's just like really living proof of like, yo, like this is very much possible in many ways. And
Mhm.
I just wanted to provide something that people can hear and be like, yo, like if she can do it, I can do it.
Yep.
And that's really it. Like, I think that's why I also named it like Forever in a Day.
Mhm.
And it all started because my manager, I always tell this story, but we were in Detroit and my luggage, we were waiting for it for a long time. So I was just like super irritated that day and just pissed off because I was like, man, I've been in this airport just waiting for my luggage. Or I think I lost my luggage, one or the other. And when we got in the Uber, I remember getting in, I was like, "Man, I've fucking been doing this, like, forever and a day," like,
Yeah,
and my manager was just like, "That's your album title,"
yeah.
and, I didn't take him seriously, I was just, like, all heated in the moment,
Mhm.
but when it came down to choosing a name, he's like, "I was being serious about forever and a day." He's like, "Think about it, you've been doing this literally,
Yeah,
like, forever and a day," so we stuck with that, and we wanted to have a title that, like, we can continue as a sequel, like the Carter 1, Carter 2, Carter 3,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's really it.
You started off with Darkest.
Uh-huh, Darkest Days.
I mean, when someone sees that and, I mean, I guess talk about how significant to place that at number 1, and, I mean, how important is that to you? Because I mean, you touched on it, I mean, up until now, the
Mm,
struggles you faced, and also too, I mean, I think it was on Luxury where you talk about
mhm,
if you were, I wanna say 24, they probably
yeah,
wouldn't be here, so, I mean, yeah, that goes hand in hand and as far as just the mental health side of it,
mhm.
so I mean, how deep did it get for you? I don't know how far you wanna get into it, but,
Yeah, I mean
how deep did it get for you where you made it mandatory that that was your number 1 song?
Yeah, I mean, originally the first song was supposed to be More Than This, but I remember like so I made More Than This before I made Darkest Days. Darkest Days was like the second to last song I wrote for the album. So all the other songs had been written like maybe a year
Yeah,
prior. But I was, after listening to everything we had, I was like, I still need like a song that's really just gonna hit a little harder, that's more personal,
yeah,
more real. So my manager's like, you gotta like, really tap into that and give me like a storytelling song. He's like, I just need something that is really gonna like marinate and it's just gonna stick to people. And, I was like, all right. So on my SoundCloud, I have an album that's like all my music on SoundCloud is private. So it's like stuff I released
yeah,
since I was like 16, 15 years old. I had an album called Lunacy that I wrote when I was, going through all that. Everything I spoke about on that song, I was currently going through on all those songs I had on SoundCloud. So I was like, all right, let me go listen back and try to kind of like go back to where I was at during those times. So I'm listening, I'm like, damn, I was going through it. I was listening to all those songs like when I
yeah.
was 16 years old.
Yeah,
And I was just like, man, I was just like really somewhere else mentally. But it was kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but listening back and being like, wow, like I'm no longer like that. And it was like, I want this song to sound like I fucking made it. Like
mhm,
I got through it because during that time, I really didn't think I would. And I always struggled with my mental health growing up. And so Darkest Days is really just me kind of like putting it all out there like, yo, like these were some of my darkest days. Like, and when I wrote the song, I told my manager, like, this one has to be first. As I know we wanted more than this, but nah, Darkest Days has to be first. I was like, people need to understand who I am first. Like, more than this is cool, don't get me wrong, but
mhm,
it's like, it's not deep to that extent where people are gonna be like, "Fuck, I wanna know what else is coming after that."
yeah,
So, we started with Darkest Days and then it follows up with Power. So I was like, I wanna give a background story of what made me who I am now and follow up with a song that's gonna make people feel like, "Hell yeah, like you can do
mhm,
anything you set your mind to." So it was just like, throwing that in Luxury. That song I wrote it 2 years ago or maybe a year and a half ago. And that one, when I wrote it, I had like literally like 2 weeks prior to that, I had attempted, to
mhm.
like end my own life. I was 24 at the time. And no one knew this. I didn't post about it. I'm not the type to like go like, hey guys,
Yeah, 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 no,
like
for real, I get
some
it,
people
yeah,
be doing that shit, but
yeah,
I definitely wasn't. So when that happened, like it was a crazy time for me, but I was like, I just like remember I wrote a bunch of songs at the time. A lot of them were very dark and Luxury was the only one that was a little bit brighter, a little bit more bouncy.
mhm,
And I just remember like the first thing that came to mind was, 24 would have been the summary, but luckily I put the demons under me. So it was just kind of like a moment I was like, hell yeah. And I named it Luxury like in an ironic way, but
yeah,
like it was kind of like I lost sight of the actual luxuries of life. I was too busy on like thinking about all the negatives around me. I literally lost sight of luxury. So that was like the first line of the song. It's like lost sight of luxury, suddenly keep, so it
mhm,
just keeps going like that. But, I just felt like why not put that in my album when the album's supposed to represent who I am as a person. And I just want people to get to know me and like know I'm human. I've
yeah,
been through my shit.
yeah, yeah, of
I'm
course,
not perfect and I'm not this like, not everything's sunshine and rainbows on my end. I definitely come from a past that made me who I am now. So
yeah.
I just think it's important for people to know that besides being an artist, like I'm also human.
Yeah, I fuck with that so much. Like,
Thank
I
you.
just wanna give a shout out to you real quick, 'cause being vulnerable like that is top tier. When I see that, and when I heard that, I was just like, this is it, because
I appreciate
this
that.
is this is, like, not a lot of people are able to tap into the emotions, are able to speak about it. They don't have the courage to actually do that. It took me a long time to even tell my feelings to a girl, because no one tells you how to fucking do that when
Facts.
you're growing up. I come from a single mom where, like, all she did was work. She didn't have
Mm,
time to show that emotional support. So just little shit like that where you try to figure out how to actually even talk to about shit like that is, and let alone put it in a fucking song so the whole world can hear it, is just, it's mind blowing to me, because I guess you don't, no one teaches you that shit. You have to literally learn from fucking the internet, from peers, from aunts and uncles, like, just people around
Yeah,
where you can fucking get knowledge from and create your own monster to where it comes out and you're putting songs about it, like, literally putting songs about it. And another thing too, you're helping people. People are realizing that hey, you're human. If she can get through it, everything that I'm going through right now, even if it's similar, not similar, bad, worse, like whatever,
facts,
Imma get to it. Imma get through it too.
facts.
So, having that, seeing that, man, that's just it's dope. I love it right out the bat when I saw it and when I heard it.
Thank
Yeah, yeah, man,
you.
it was dope. I just knew at that point, I was just like, "This is gonna be one good conversation." Because
Yeah.
think about me, like I said, I've had my mother on this platform,
Mhm,
twice, I wanna say twice, and I've cried on the
mm.
platform. So, like, being, yeah, I was always this person where I didn't really wanna talk about feelings. I didn't really wanna let that show people that side of me, and I was
Yeah.
just like, "What the fuck for?" Like, I don't care. Like, I got to a point where I was just like, "This is who I am. This is what it is. You can accept me." And then at that point, you realize I'm faking it for who knows what. Let me show it, and then people start to gravitate towards it
Mhm.
because you're human. I was just like, "Holy shit, like, this is not what I expected." Like, I thought the complete opposite. So,
Facts.
I don't know, it's just a weird way I'm thinking, but
Nah,
shout out to you,
mm,
man. That is dope.
appreciate you,
Yeah, yeah,
man.
it's really dope. You, recently did a song with Paul Wall too, and growing up, I mean, you think of Paul Wall, he's a pioneer, and it's fucking crazy to even think about that this dude is still doing songs
No, facts, and killing it.
and killing it and
And
fucking killing
killing
it, yeah, and
it.
killing it. It's, it's so dope to see, but, I mean, growing up, I mean, he was with Nelly with Grills.
Mhm.
Even before that, man, there's a song on there,
It's a sitting sideways.
that one, but it was just, like, one that I was really in tune with. I Got the Internet Going Nuts, I think that's the way it goes.
Mhm,
One of
I
his
think I
first albums, something like that, but him and his shit, I followed everything, like, all his beefs, all the shit within Houston, like, just little shit like that, like,
Yeah.
I'm in tune with it, and I grew up just because of my mom. She was a real fucking gangster, but, um yeah, talk about that. How was that experience? Obviously, I mean, growing up, we're kind of similar age. I mean, you more or less know who Paul Wall is, right?
Yeah,
Like, so
100%.
you know, what was that experience like though?
Man, it was crazy. Honestly, like, a lot of people think that from that, recent video we put out, like, that was my first time meeting him, but me and
Yeah.
him have already known each other. That was maybe, like, my 3rd or 4th time I had chilled with him, and, the first time I ever met him was, I think we had went to go eat at the spot in Fort Worth called Fresco's Tacos, and, Smooth takes everyone there, like, every celebrity he, like, is
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
business with, and at the time, he was like, "Yo, pull up, Paul Wall's here with his manager." And I remember I was, like, with a lot of my homies, it was, like, me, my girl, and, like, my cousin and 2 other homies of mine. And I've always been real weird around celebrities. I don't wanna come off like I'm, like,
Like a fan? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I got
So
you.
I try to, like, be chill, especially because Smooth always, like, warns me. He's like, "Yo, like, just
Yeah.
be chill." And then usually I am, I like to think I'm a pretty calm person. And, I just remember we pulled up, we order our food, and Smooth's kinda, like, not very direct sometimes. So, I just kinda got there and I just sat at a whole separate table, and because I was like, "I don't know if I'm just supposed to just walk up to their
Yeah, yeah.
table or what." So I just remembered, like, I walked over and then I remember, I think it was, Paul Wall's manager. He called me Hollywood jokingly, and it's funny because now that's my nickname. He calls me Hollywood.
That's dope.
He's like, "What
That's
you
dope.
doing over here? Hollywood is sitting down, like, you too
Yeah.
cool for us." But nah, they were cool, and that was my first time, like, really, like, being around them, and, I just remember Paul, he's like, "Y'all trying to take pictures?" Like, everyone was taking pictures with one another, and while me and Paul are, like, about to take a picture, he's like, "Where you from?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm from this small town, like, out of, Austin." He's like, "Oh, for real, where?" And I was like, "Georgetown." He's like, "Man, I was born there."
Oh,
And I
shit.
was just like, "What?"
I
I
didn't
was
know
like,
that.
"Yeah,"
That's
and
what's up.
it was crazy. And I was like, "What? I thought you were from Houston." He's like, "Well, I was just born at the hospital there." He's like, he had family in Buda. So, he was kinda like an area
Yeah.
in, or his mom lived in Georgetown for a bit or something like that, and, but he was a baby, and then he got taken to Houston, so
Yep.
he grew up over there. But that was, like, our first interaction. I think, like, the fact that we were from there, we kinda, like, really clicked, and every time I saw him after that, like, it was all love, and it was weird to tell
Mhm.
people, like, "Oh, yeah, I was just, like, chilling with Paul
Yeah.
Wall, or I went to go, like, eat over here," and then I did a tour. It was, like, 4 cities or 3 cities with him. So I got to chill with him more, and then, I think the last time I hung out with, oh, no, right before that, he had did, like, a special appearance at Mala Vida in Austin. He just
Yep.
did, like, a after party, and, my manager, like, said, like, "Hey, pull up, like, they'll let you go and, like, chill with them VIP," and I was, like, nervous. I was like, "Ah, like, without you?" Like, I go with Smooth, so I was like, "Oh, I just pull up or what?"
Yeah, yeah.
And I just remember, like, "Yeah, pull up." I see Paul's manager, and he's like, "Yeah, just roll with us." So I'm like walking in with Paul Wall, and I'm like, "Man, like I felt like the shit that
Yeah,
night."
this is
But I
it.
was like nervous. I was like, "I don't know how to act right now." But he's just, man, he shows me so much love. Him and his manager are
Yep.
super dope people. Shout out to Goo too, man. Like,
That's what's up.
and yeah, like I think it was just always like good vibes around them. And when we did this video, like it was real natural. Like I feel like when I'm around him, I'm comfortable, and
Mhm.
he's a very welcoming man. Like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
makes everyone feel good. Like he's got such good energy. He's very genuine. Like he doesn't come off like some superstar. Like although he is, but he
Mhm.
does not. Like he just talks to everyone the same. Like
Yeah.
he respects everybody. So it was a hell of an experience. And honestly, because of this like a video I did with him, it ended up like blowing up on TikTok. Now everyone in Georgetown associates me with him. So they're like, "Oh,
That's
you're that
dope.
girl
Yeah,
that did
yeah.
a song with Paul Wall." So it's pretty cool.
That's dope. That's dope. Just to go back and show some love to the Georgetown. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
hell
fuck with
yeah.
that. Um, man, I wanna. This has been good so far. I want to end on the note of you coming out because you mentioned it earlier, and I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about it. I know I said it off air, but the only reason why I bring it up is because my oldest sister, she
Mhm.
came out when she was 18, and then for the longest time, I mean, she had boyfriends,
Mhm.
but and I think this is where I should probably have a sit down with her because I don't truly know the reason why she actually went that way. Because
Mhm.
growing up, single mom, she was Catholic. We went to like Wednesday school, Wednesday church school, shit like that. So there was some type of notion of this is who you like, this is who you should like,
Mhm.
um, and that's it. You know what I mean? There
Facts.
was no
Mhm.
other like that was it.
Yeah.
So now growing up, I have a niece, she's about to turn 18, which is fucking mind-blowing, but she's bisexual too,
Mhm.
so there's a situation where my mother has to take care of my niece because of my sister, they, just she's her legal guardian,
Uh-huh.
um, but my mom took it she took it so well compared to, like, my oldest sister.
Mm.
Like, I remember my oldest sister did it so drastically, like, she fucking shaved her head off. She
Ah,
came out to
shit.
my mom and, like,
Yeah.
was like, "This is me, accept me or not," and then my mom, like, basically, like, told her, like, she had to leave, and, like, there
Mhm.
was just ongoing thing for so long up until my mom just accepted it, and, like, it is what it is, and, I mean, from there, the relationship grew even further, so, yeah, to see my mom accept my niece like, just totally opposite one, because I mean, obviously, that's a grandchild, so, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there's a little connection there, but, how was that for you? Why did you even come out at 21? And I guess, I mean, how long did you know before you were like, "Fuck,
Yeah.
this is who I am?"
Yeah, I mean, it's kinda crazy because when I came out, everyone was like, we all knew. But it was
Yeah,
weird because I was like, "Well, how did you guys know?" But I didn't. Like, I think growing up, I grew up very Catholic. A lot of people don't know this, but I did everything. I did my first communion, I
yeah,
got baptized, and I did my confirmation, so I did the whole shebang. And,
yeah, yeah,
I used to go to Sunday, like every other Sun or go to church every other Sunday. So I was, like my dad was very adamant about us going to church, but, my parents were never, like, the type to really be like, "Oh, if you ever turn out gay, like, we're gonna, kick you
yeah.
out." But my mom was growing up, I was very tomboy, like, I liked I shopped in the men's section. To this day, I still do.
Yeah, fuck
And,
with
like and,
yeah, yeah,
I remember her always, like, buying me clothes randomly and be like, "Oh, look, I bought you this little blouse," or, like, she would give me shit for the way I do my hair or,
mhm,
like And I could tell it affected her enough for her to try to correct it. And it fucked with me a little bit, growing up.
Yep.
And but I think that's just like Hispanic mothers, like they definitely like to point shit out about
Yeah,
us.
yeah, no, yeah.
That's just how they are. But I could tell, like, I think a part of me knew that maybe the fact that she wasn't a fan of my tomboyishness,
Mhm.
like there was like I think I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like I never really knew whether or not I was gay growing up because I didn't have much dating experience, like, I dated dudes here and there, like, yes, I was in a relationship with a whole dude for a while.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's funny because so my only I he's the only person I really considered that I dated for a long time or, like, even dated, like, my only real boyfriend.
Mhm.
It was right out of, my senior year. We dated for, like, a year and a half, maybe 2, but he was in the army, so I didn't have to see him very much, so it worked out
Yeah, yeah,
perfectly for
that's
me.
funny.
But, I kind of did feel like, I would hear my friends talk about how their experiences with their boyfriends were, and I'm like, "Why?" Like, mine feels weird. Like,
Yeah,
I feel uncomfortable around or when I was getting touched by a man, like, it was just like, no, it's not for me." Like, it didn't feel right or natural. So I just kinda started realizing, like, there's something off about me, but I never attempted to talk to a female until I was 21 years old. And it was all because this female approached me, and I had never had that happen. And I was like, "Oh, this is different." And then she was like a pretty girl, so I was like, "Oh, like why
yeah,
not have a
yeah, yeah,
conversation with her?"
yeah.
And at the time I was still trying to figure myself out. I didn't really know for sure like which direction I was swinging. I didn't really I just never thought about it. I was so focused on like music, that's all I cared about. And, when I met this girl, I was like, "Oh, like, we started talking every day. We're texting every day. And then now we're starting to flirt with each other." I'm like, "Why does this feel so natural to me?" Like, and it freaked me out a little bit. But at the same time, I was like, "Wow, this feels good." Like,
Feels right,
I've
yeah,
never felt this way talking to a dude before.
yeah.
And, just the conversation was so natural and genuine. And it got to a point where it was like, "Oh, like, let's hang out." And then next thing you know, like, I kissed the first girl ever. And I was like, this is how it's supposed to feel.
Yeah.
And it was like, "Oh my god, I've been missing out, like,
Yeah,
for the past 21 years." Like,
hilarious.
and, and it was definitely the best realization, but it was also like, "Fuck, my life could potentially completely
Yeah,
change."
yeah,
Because no one knew except for me and this other girl, and this other girl was out to everybody except for me, like, no one knew, not a single human being knew that I had officially discovered that I like women. And I remember the first person I ever told were my cousins. Just because I knew, like, they'll accept me as I come. So they were both I remember telling them, like, "Yo, like, I think I might be gay." And they're like, "Cool. What are you doing tomorrow?" Like,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
it was whatever to them. But, it took me maybe I started dating that girl, and maybe, like, 6 months into our relationship, I started telling my friends, and then, little by little, I started telling, like, other people, but I hadn't told my family just yet. So it was kinda scary. I was kinda like testing waters. I told my friends, everyone was supportive. And then I remember my little brother, he comes out to me. And I remember him coming out to me. I was just like, "Oh, I wasn't ready like, I wasn't expecting this." Not that I wasn't ready for it, I just wasn't
Did
expecting.
did you feel that way about him?
I
Or
kinda
did you
hinted I was
yeah?
like I kinda hinted it because as a kid, like, he liked to play with Barbies and he would, like, random
Yeah,
paint his
yeah,
nails, so I was like, "Okay," but he wasn't never very, like,
I
flamboyant or,
got you.
like, anything like that, so it was like, maybe he's just going through a little phase, whatever.
Yeah,
But me and my little brother are super tight, so, I was always like, if he turns out to be gay, it's whatever to me.
yeah.
But when he came out to me, I think he was a 6th grader,
That's crazy, that's crazy.
and I remember he messages me a long message, and I was in my room and he was in his room. We're literally down the hall from each other. And he's like, "Hey sister, like I just want to let you know, like I have something I want to tell you." Long message. He's like, at the end of the message said, "If you still love me, can you come into the room and give me a hug?" And I just remember like, fuck. Like I was like
Kick
filled
the
with
door open?
emotion. Man, I ran over there. I was like, "Bro, like what makes you think like I wouldn't
Yeah,
love you? Come on
yeah.
now." So I gave him a big hug. I was like, "You want to know something though?" I was like, "Me too." I was like, "I'm also gay." And I
Yeah.
was like, but it was definitely kind of scary because our family still didn't know.
Oh, see dang.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
little
okay,
brother
okay.
comes out to me first, so it makes
Gotcha,
me
gotcha.
go so at this point, I told him, I don't know if this was the smartest thing for me to say to him, but at the time it felt right, but I did tell him, like, "Let me come out first just to see how they react, because I would hate, for anything
Yeah.
to go wrong with you." So, I remember I finally I think I told my sisters first. Oh, no, 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 I think I no, yeah, I did tell my sisters first, and I didn't tell my parents yet. My oldest sister was super supportive. My other sister was a little back and forth. I can tell she got a little bit more religious,
Mhm.
towards some point in her life, and I could tell she was kinda like, like back and forth, like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
But she always made it known that she still loved me regardless, and I was thankful for that. But, at some point, me and this girl were thinking about moving in together. Still, my parents not knowing we're together.
So it's coming
And
up.
so
It's
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 like
coming up.
we're like
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, I got you.
at this point, I think we are like 10 months dating. And I know I'm ashamed of the fact I kept it from my parents for so long, but I was genuinely scared.
Mhm.
And I finally told my sister, like, hey, would you be down to co-sign, help me co-sign to get this apartment? She's like, oh, who you gonna move in? I was like, oh, this girl that I'm
Yeah.
talking to. And she's like, okay, like, yeah, sure. Like, but do mom and dad know? I was like, I'll tell them eventually. And I was just like holding it off, holding it off. And I remember I come home one day. My parents are both sitting down and they're like, come here, we want to talk to you.
Jeez, legs crossed,
Oh, bro,
everything.
I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
I was like, what did I do? And, they sit me down. I just remember my dad's usually the one that always did all the talking when it came to like disciplining
Yeah.
us. So that's when I knew I was in trouble when my dad's the one doing all the talking. And he was just like, hey, we just want to ask you. And my dad only speaks Spanish, so it sounds a little more intense sometimes. And he's like, hey, are you dating a girl? And I just like stayed quiet, I was like nodded my head. Just remember my mom walking out. And at that moment, I was like, fuck. I was like, my whole life is just like,
Yeah.
it's just gonna be different. I was like, I don't know what that means. And my dad just like talking to me, kind of well, like, do you know for sure? Like, and I like I've seen a therapist for the most part of my life since I was like 16, on and off. And he was like, do you need to go,
Mhm.
talk to your therapist? Like, and I was
Mhm.
just like, nah, nothing's wrong with me. I was like, if
Yeah,
anything, I
yeah.
feel great. And eventually, my mom walks back in and she's crying and she just gives me a hug. And she's like, you're always gonna be my baby girl. And that was it. And I was just like, what the fuck? I was like shaking. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
thinking, like, damn, like the fact that my mom walked back in and gave me a hug was like all I could ask for in that moment. I was like, man, I got the reassurance. And, I know how fortunate I am because, man, I've heard like friends that are queer and they
Yeah,
tell me their
yeah.
experience. And I'm like, damn, like, and my parents are so welcoming to everyone they know. Like, they're so prideful. And, like, I have a cousin in Mexico who's also gay, and, her mom wasn't always the nicest to her, and my mom has put, her own sister in a place like, "Nah, like, that's your
Yeah.
daughter," like,
Yeah.
and that's crazy coming from my mom, the person I thought wasn't gonna accept me, and I love my mom to death, man, like, I'm so grateful, and, my whole family is so supportive, and, like, I'm just so lucky because that could've completely
Yeah.
gone a different direction,
Yeah.
and I was always a little bit more like I call myself a STEM. So I'm not like
A STEM?
a STEM. So it's
Okay.
like a femme and a stud in one.
Ah, okay,
'Cause,
makes
I like,
sense.
studs are usually the ones that got the fades
I
and,
got you.
and
Yeah, I know
then
what you mean.
so I'm
Yeah.
like right in the middle. 'Cause I like as much as like I put my hair in a bun, like I could never cut my hair. It's
Yeah,
like that's just me though.
that's
But,
funny.
everyone's preference is different. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's
That's good. I'm glad it worked out because, like you said, I've heard it too. There's horror stories with
mhm.
people out there with families that don't accept it, still don't accept it, have their religious reasons, have
Mhm.
whatever, and that sucks because it just goes back to not being accepted. You just don't feel
Yeah.
accepted in your own household, which sucks. And it's I mean, for a point in time, I mean, you grow up with these people, you think like, hey, I should. It really shouldn't matter. Like it
Yeah.
really shouldn't matter. Like in
Facts.
my opinion,
Mhm.
obviously for me growing up, saw my sister dating and it threw me off a little bit, but then I was like, I don't even fucking care. Like I don't
Yeah.
fucking care. Like I'm granted I think I was a freshman in high school. She was a senior. So at that point I was just doing my own thing. I was hanging out with my own friends. I mean, girlfriend at the time. So I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like I really don't care. I mean, and now to this day, I mean, she put me on a lot of shit. Like I have yet to talk about this, but she handed me a book one time, and I don't know if you heard of it. It's called The Secret. It's like about
Mm-mm.
manifestation and the law of
Oh, no, I
attraction.
haven't heard of it.
Yeah, it's called The Secret, but she handed me like a teen version. So
Mm.
it was like sound kind of bad, but it's like a dumbed down version of
Yeah,
like
it's just
the
easier to
yeah,
understand,
easier to
yeah.
understand. Yeah, and she gave that to me when I was 15, and I didn't pay attention to it. Did not pay attention to it up until I started reading books when I turned like 23, 24. Opened it. went to another version, the higher version of it, and I was just like, "She was a fucking genius." Like, it was just it's just weird. So, I mean, I always show her love. She always
That's
got my
dope.
blessing, so shout out to her, man. But, man, this is, smooth conversation.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
smooth conversation. I appreciate you coming out here.
Yeah, of course.
On the last season, I always ended with, showing flowers, and you reached out to me about 3 months ago.
Mhm.
Not too sure on how you even found out, not too sure what made you click on it. But honestly, it's just me and 2 other people running this fucking show, running this platform. And to have you come on here from all the cosigns you have, from all the albums, from the shit you're doing, you got it. You really do got it. Yeah,
Appreciate
yeah,
you,
yeah.
man. Thank you,
I've
man.
seen it. I like just over time, because I first, like I said, I first saw you on Mozzie, and
Mhm,
I'm the type of person to just stand back and
mhm.
let it come, and it came, and I'm happy for it, I'm grateful, and this is what it was supposed to be, man. So shout out to you. I
Thanks.
know you drove a ways, to come to this studio, so, man, I really do appreciate you.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
man. Anytime.
for sure, for sure. You got anything to say before we head out? I guess plug your socials,
Oh, yeah.
talk about your album. Yeah, anything you wanna say, you can right here, this camera.
Bet. Yeah. So you guys can find me on everything. If you just look up XB Valentine altogether, there's no spaces in my name. So if you just look that up, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, literally all the same. My at is XB Valentine. Go check out my new album I just dropped, Forever and a Day, available everywhere. So yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in.
Yeah, again, appreciate you. If you're still watching, like, comment, subscribe. Season 4, episode 92. And until next time, guys, peace.